All right. Okay, here we are. We're live on Stock Markets with Bruce without any warning whatsoever. We've got an update here for you, market followers. Those of you who are following this channel, I thank you very much. Don't do a live show just for this channel, but today, today is an exception. We just came up with some news that I think you should be aware of. Breaking news that happened in the last couple of hours. The cruise line shares are popping during the day and now in the aftermarket because investors are all giddy about the fact that the CDC out there has seems to have issued a reprieve on the no sail order for cruise ships. Apparently, cruise ships had been under a restriction to not sail in U.S. waters, and that was going to be allowed to expire at the end of this month, which is tomorrow. And starting November 1, under certain terms and conditions, cruise lines will be able to start sailing again in U.S. waters. Well, this news announcement came out with about, maybe an hour or so to go before the market was done. Let me show you what I mean here. This is about an hour and a half, 2 hours before the market closed. This is Royal Caribbean stock. And you can see by this chart right here, forgive me with all the glaring and whatnot, but let me show you from over here. This is this morning. This is where the shares were, or actually, sorry, over here, this morning, over here. And they were down as much today. They were down to the $51 range. They were down several dollars a share. And just around 11, 12 o'clock, you can see right here, that's where the low point was. And then right here, you can see the uptick when the CDC made their announcement. The initial euphoria was they've lifted the no sail order and everything is good to go. Now we're hearing about terms and conditions that have to be met in order for this to happen. And it's not quite as straightforward as just allowing any cruise ship to start sailing all you want. There are going to have to be all kinds of protocols adhered to. They're going to basically have cruise lines go through all kinds of health inspections. They're going to have them do sort of like test sailings, I suspect with crew only. This is going to be baby steps. And this is going to take a while before cruise lines are going to be given the green light to actually start sailing again in the U.S. But nevertheless, over at Royal Caribbean, the shares were as low as $51.37. They closed during the day, at the end of the day, at $56.42. So they had moved up $5 a share. And in the aftermarket, $56.77. And so you can see the numbers right up here. And you can see how high the shares got just on Royal Caribbean. Now, if we slide over to our friends over at Norwegian, you'll see Norwegian shares were down as well. They were down as low as $15.30 earlier today. And forgive my jiggling of this phone, but closed at $16.63 in the aftermarket, $16.76. And then the last one would be Carnival. The big three cruise lines are publicly traded. Carnival was as low as $12.62 today, closed at $13.71 in the aftermarket, $13.85. So investors had an initial positive reaction to all of this news, and the markets had a bit of a pop because of it. The question going forward will be, will this last, and how long will this last for? Because what is not being discussed and not being talked about too much is the fact that I don't know, folks, how long this can go on. I don't know how long this will last as a good thing. This could well be a very temporary respite for the cruise lines because they are bleeding all kinds of money. They're not going to be able to start up their ships just like that. They have planned only a few ships at the beginning to see kind of how things would go, and then slowly add ships after that. The other thing that's coming up is, on Tuesday, there's an election being done in the United States, a presidential election with all the Senate seats, or a third of the Senate seats and all the Congress. That could just stop everything in its tracks, because if a new administration is voted in by the voters by the end of next week and into the week after that, you can start looking for announcements that are going to come out from the administration in waiting the new administration in waiting, and they will likely start coming out with policy announcements that they're going to be enacting as soon as they take over January the 20th, 2021, one of which might well be that the CDC will be reversing their stance as far as they're concerned, so as soon as January the 20th hits. Now, that'll tell the cruise lines, guys, don't even bother trying to start sailing right now, because if the new administration coming in January is going to shut you guys down, you might as well not spend millions and millions of dollars bringing all these crew members in from around the world, get them onto these cruise ships, quarantine these people, feed them in the meantime, and try to start sailing in December when in January you're going to be shut down again anyway. The other issue, of course, that's plaguing the whole scenario right now is that the entire world is experiencing a run-up in the virus counts again. And so these virus counts are out of control in Europe. European cruise lines are shutting down again. AIDA is shut down for November. Now Costa is shutting down. There's pressure on MSC to consider shutting down. Cruise lines that operate river cruises they've all shut down again. Germany is on a lockdown. France is going into lockdown. Spain, Italy, parts of Italy. This is spreading across major European countries, which all border the Mediterranean Sea, the Baltic Sea, the Atlantic Ocean. There'll be no cruise ports for cruise ships to be able to go to in Europe. So you're not even going to be able to get them onto the ship. You're not going to be allowed to get them off a ship for a tour. These cruise lines are basically going to shut down in Europe through the winter. And I really wonder if Caribbean nations are going to follow an opening guideline here to restart sailings in the Caribbean. Something tells me they're not. They're having issues now in the Bahamas. Domestic counts, virus counts are rising in the Bahamas without tourism even happening. There are problems in other nations in the Caribbean and perhaps Mexico, Belize, Honduras. And so cruise lines may not even be able to take passengers to any of these places because they've got the virus counts rising as high as they have it, and they don't have the hospital facilities to handle large virus outbreaks, let alone a whole bunch of cruise ship passengers coming in. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. A lot of passengers out there are desperate to go cruising. They want to go on a cruise. They don't care about the protocols. They just want to go. They're happy to just go to a cruise to nowhere, but that's not allowed under U.S. marine law. So they're hoping maybe they can get on a ship from Miami and just go to the Bahamas and come back 4 days later. That may or may not even be allowed. At this point, I think the CDC is going to tell the cruise lines, you guys have got to prove to us beyond a shadow of a doubt that you put 2,000 people and 1,500 crew members together on a ship for 1 week, no one is going to have the virus. I don't know how any cruise line can guarantee the safety of every single cruiser. And I know that there are lawyers waiting in the wings, waiting to file class action lawsuits against the cruise lines the minute a cruise ship comes back to the U.S. with 10 or 20 or 30 cases of the virus, because these lawyers are going to sign these people up, promise them the world that they can sue them, the cruise lines, for millions of dollars because they, got infected. And there's going to be all kinds of people waiting to sue the cruise lines if this happens. I don't know, marine law and all the what have you, but all I know is that there are lawyers out there waiting to sue cruise lines, and cruise lines have to defend themselves. Whether they're right or not, they have to defend themselves. And they're going to be running into millions of dollars of legal fees, in-house legal costs, just to try to defend themselves. In the meantime, one cruise ship comes back to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Port Canaveral, with 4 or 5 or 6 cases of the virus. It is a media sensation and nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare for the PR departments of these cruise lines, because the U.S. press is waiting to just pounce on these stories, and I don't think it's a good idea. So again, folks, the election is coming up on Tuesday. These shares could reverse course so quickly if the election goes with a new administration, and that administration starts to hint that we're not going to allow the CDC to do the cruising. We're going to shut cruising down as soon as we take over. The cruise shares will collapse right under their own weight all over again, and they will go lower than they were even today. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Like I said, it's one of those things where all week long the cruise shares were under pressure. I know the Royal Caribbean 2 weeks ago was as high as $72 a share. Then they came out with their $60 financing for $500 million. Then they started deteriorating after that when all the case counts in Europe started to surge. Now the case counts are hitting all-time record highs in the US. I don't know how the CDC will even figure out a way to allow cruise ships to sail out of Florida, because Florida has got a wide open economy right now with a no mask order from the governor. I don't know how that's going to happen. And I can't understand how a passenger living in St. Louis, how can you get from St. Louis to Miami either by air or by rail or with your car, stay in a hotel on the way down there, hit some restaurants, be exposed to people in these areas, get to Miami, and not be infected with the virus. Maybe one person can do it, maybe 300 can do it, maybe 500 can do it, but 2,000 passengers all at the same time coming to the same place through all of these states to get to the ship, the odds of one of those people not having the virus, pretty long odds. Everything has to go so perfectly each and every time. And if Carnival wants to start 3 ships, and Norwegian wants to start 2 or 3 ships, and Royal Caribbean, we're talking 8 to 10 ships that might start off in sometime in December. We're now talking about 15, 20,000 passengers a week that are going to get off these ships and get on these ships at limited capacity. And they're going through the airports, they're coming through town, they're going through shopping malls, they're going through drive-thrus, they're going to... I don't know how you can't keep the virus off of a cruise ship with the case counts in the US now over 90,000 a day and expected to rise even more. I just don't know how it's going to go. Joseph, thank you for being here today. What are your thoughts on the Bahamas Paradise cruise line? Will they make it or be next in line to go bankrupt? Well, the good news for the company is they only have 2 ships. The good news is that the 2 ships they have, they didn't pay a lot of money to get. So they're not in need of hundreds of millions of dollars to stay alive. They're in need of some money, yes, but not, unbelievable amounts of money. But as each month goes by and the uncertainty grew, it just makes it worse. Now, with the no sail order possibly being lifted completely, maybe these guys would be allowed. But the good news for them is they're not running 1 week long cruises. They were doing overnights, like one-nighters, but they might change their game plan and literally become a ferry service. They might just decide that leave in the morning from Florida and get to the Bahamas in the afternoon and get everybody off the ship, disinfect the ship overnight. Next morning, load the ship up with passengers for Florida, drop them off in Florida, disinfect the ship, leave the next day and do it again. They might just do that. I don't know for sure, but they may just go that route rather than doing the full-blown accommodation game and everything else. They just want to get their casinos up. So if they can take a 6-hour sail, 8 hours over international waters and crank up the slot machines, maybe that's how they'll run it, and they won't have all that staff on board regarding the accommodations overnight. On the other hand, they might do an overnight sailing again and try to sell the overnight deal with the casino running as much as they can. I mean, maybe they've got 20 hours of casino time and 5 or 6 hours of sailing in national waters where they have to shut the casinos down. But I just don't know. Again, I don't know how the virus will not be transmitted, because the virus is out there and people have it. They don't know they have it, but they have it. And I wonder how this is going to really go. But at this point, I'll tell you, Joseph, they've been alive. They've been able to keep it going and not worry about the spread of the virus, or they've been able to stay alive while this shutdown has been going on. And that's what they've been up to so far. So I don't know. I'm not sure how this will play itself out. But anyway, there you go. So to recap one more time, just for this quick update for everybody on Stock Markets with Bruce, the cruise lines all popped in the late afternoon today, in the last 2 hours of trading, after the CDC tentatively lifted or conditionally lifted the no sale order as of early November. The shares may have reacted a little too much, but I got to tell you, most of the investment world had already gone home for the weekend. We'll see over the weekend what the reaction is to most investors, and starting Monday morning, we'll see where we're at with regard to these three cruise line shares. Carnival, Norwegian, and Royal Caribbean, they may go higher to start right off the bat Monday morning and then peter out as the day goes on, or they might start lower as the full details of this potential reopening come out, because there are a lot of terms and conditions that the cruise lines have to be under in order to start sailing again. And I personally just don't know how the cruise lines are going to be able to convince the CDC how this will go. Now, it could well be that the CDC lifted this thing under pressure from the White House, but they really don't mean it. They really don't want it to happen. And it now might take an entire week or two for the cruise lines and the CDC to hammer out the details. And at the end of 2 weeks, they realize that they can't get to the details. They can't make it work out. Or by Wednesday or Thursday of next week, it is apparent that it's possible there's a new administration coming to take over in the White House in January, and the CDC and the cruise lines will just back off and go, okay, we can't do anything right now anyway, because there's new people who are going to take over, and the entire CDC philosophy might completely change out. And the so-called top of the CDC, the top guys and girls that run it, could be all new people, and they're going to have to adhere to the new administration's wishes, and those might be known very quickly in the next week or so, and that could reverse these shares quickly, and these shares could go much, much lower. I don't like the risk of holding the stock right now. I think Monday and Tuesday, everyone will hold waiting the election. David, there you go. I'm with you there. I think you're on the right track here, that the markets are going to get very quiet. They're going to get very tentative, and they're going to wait this thing out until Wednesday morning. And the hope is, everyone is hoping that Wednesday morning, whatever is happening, it's definitive, and we know exactly what's going to go on. What we don't want, what the markets do not want, is complete chaos and uncertainty on Wednesday morning. They do not want that. They want absolute certainty already, no matter what all the late ballots will bring, the mail-in ballots will bring. The hoping is that by Wednesday morning, by Wednesday afternoon, it is done. We know exactly what's going to happen in January. Either nothing changes or everything changes. But one way or the other, the street would really appreciate a bit of direction in that area. But we're going to have to wait till Wednesday morning to find out. We're not going to know now until then. In the meantime, these cruise shares, cruise stocks, they could be quite volatile on Monday and Tuesday, depending on how everything is going forward. There'll be a lot of speculation, a lot of hopes, wishes, and aspirations of cruisers who can't wait to go cruising. But then there might be a lot of out there who are going, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. These terms and conditions could be so onerous that no cruise line can meet the terms and conditions. While I have you folks here, there's 21 of you here now. Thank you for being here on this show, this live show on Traveling with Bruce, Stock Markets with Bruce. I have a YouTube channel called Traveling with Bruce, a YouTube channel, and a Facebook group page called Traveling with Bruce. And I do updates for this channel for the moment on that Facebook group page. So if you want to know what's happening about sailings and cruise ship news, you can head over to my Facebook group page for Traveling with Bruce and hop on over there. I will shortly, not too long from now, have a Facebook group page just for Stock Markets with Bruce, and we will have our own place to hang out at. And I'll welcome you all to join me there. I'll let you know as soon as I have it up and running. Blackbird's number 4. So are you putting a buy, sell, or hold on the cruise stocks? I am negative on the prospects for cruise shares. I don't think the cruise lines in the next year to a year and a half will be able to sail with enough ships at enough capacity on those ships to be able to make enough money to justify the stock prices that they are currently sitting at. And my number one sell is Royal Caribbean, number one for sure. I have a suspicion that it's going to be until 2023 before Royal Caribbean can really get all the ships they have sailing again. And even then, they might be limited to 50, 60, 70% capacity. And they will likely maybe make $2 a share profit by then. This is 2023, maybe the end of that year. And if they only make $2 a share profit, they'll be worth $30 a share at 15 times earnings. They'll be worth $40 a share at 20 times earnings. That's being generous to the earnings multiple. The shares right now are $55, $56. They were $72 2 weeks ago. Way overpriced. Remember, all cruise lines, the three big ones, they've all borrowed money to stay alive right now. Carnival's borrowed money, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean. Some of the monies that they have borrowed, they are paying anywhere from 8 to 14% interest on that cash. And this cash also replaced old notes that matured in 2020 and will mature in 2021. They are rolling over their debt to keep carrying old debt. They used to pay 3 to 5% interest. Now they're paying 8 to 14% interest on all the debt they're carrying. So when it's all said and done, these cruise lines are going to be carrying debt that will cost them about, I'm going to guess, about $1.5 billion to $2 billion a year in interest charges, much higher than they used to have. So starting cruising, when they do start up, their expenses have gone way up because of the debt load that they owe now, these interest charges. They don't have to pay the loans off. They only have to roll over the loans later on down the road, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, so on. But the interest charges have to be paid on time. And those interest charges of $2 billion a year, the first $2 billion these guys clear goes to the bankers because they were kept alive in 2020. The next money they make after that will flow down to the shareholders. But I got to tell you, folks, they've got expenses coming up, additional debt, rollovers, and ship build-outs. They haven't refurbished any of their ships the last 9 months. There's all kinds of ships that were supposed to go to dry dock. They didn't put them in dry dock. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of repairs they're going to have to make on the lines, all their ships in 2021, 22, 23, 24. This has all been delayed. And this is expenses that they didn't expect to have. I cannot see Carnival being worth more than $10 a share for the next 2 years. I can't see Norwegian being worth more than $10 a share for the next 2 years. And I really have a tough time for Royal Caribbean justifying a $35 share price. It might be a $20, $25 stock for quite some time. So there's my thoughts on all of that. I wish I could give you happy news, but the reality is these guys are broke. They're going to need to borrow more cash, and I don't see them being allowed to bring all of their ships back into service like that. It's not going to happen. And the virus will dictate and dominate everything, no matter how this goes. Thank you, Blackbirds, for that comment. Excellent response. Thank you. I don't see the cruise lines being able to get all their ships up and running again for at least a year until the end of 2021. And it might be into 2022 by the time they do get them all up and running, which means they're carrying these interest charges and these debts on a lower playing field. They've got way fewer berths, bunks, beds to sell, and they've got much higher expenses to pay with. It's really a problem. Jiminy Cricketer, this is a good way to defer the no sale order to the Biden administration. That's right. The CDC, they don't really want to do this, but they're being forced to by the White House, the current guys. After the election is over, if the new guys are going to take over in January, they can already make their intentions known. And that will give the directors of the CDC the chance to just kind of back up. The cruise lines will be given the big hint, guys, don't spend all kinds of money to start now because you're going to be shut down January the 20th. The first presidential order that Biden would sign, no sale order for the CDC. Instantaneously, And so that'll shut that right down. So I can't see the cruise line spending millions of bucks to get all these crew members in and then put them in 2 weeks quarantine and then try to get passengers to come on in December only to shut down again in the third week of January. They're going to lose their shirts on that move. So they'll probably stay shut down and voluntarily not sail until the next administration and the CDC are all unified. And that will be at least March of 2021. And I think it'll be longer than that. We did hear today the country of Canada extend the no sail order for Canada till March of next year. Has no impact on current cruises anyway, but it's a hint from Canada. Don't think about Alaska cruising next year. It doesn't look good. Don't think about any cruising into the Maritimes next year from New York or Boston. It doesn't look good. So the only sailings out of the U.S., if there is a sail order allowed, New York to Bermuda and back. Miami to Bahamas and back. But again, I don't know when that'll happen, because if Bahamas are experiencing an outbreak, which they are, Jamaica is having its issues, Dominican Republic has had its issues, the US is out of control, Europe is out of control. I don't see cruising starting anywhere for quite some time, unfortunately. And so these shares are way overpriced. This shot today was a one-off, and it was a perfect time to short. Perfect time to either get out while the getting is good or take a new short position, because I don't like the prospects for the next several months for the cruise lines and maybe the next several years, because fundamentals will eventually rule the day. And the fundamentals for the cruise lines don't look good. They don't look good for the airlines. They don't look good for the hotels. They certainly don't look good for any travel-related issues. We noticed this week, American Express, Visa, MasterCard, all under pressure, because folks are not booking cruises. They're not booking vacations. They're not booking flights. They're not booking hotels. Business travel, non-existent. So don't get excited about getting into the airline stocks. It doesn't look good. David Peoples, Canada is going up with virus count. Yes, Canada's provinces are all experiencing higher virus count numbers, and we're all under mandatory masks when we go outside. We go any store, anywhere, masks are mandatory. No gatherings of people in private homes of 6 or more in British Columbia, where I am. Public gatherings are 10 or more not allowed. They really are clamping down. It'll be all bars, restaurants will be all shut down in Canada. Again, we'll go into a national lockdown in a moment's notice, but it's already happening regionally. And this does not look good for cruise ship passengers. With a cruise ship, you got 2,000 people mingling the whole time. They're mingling on the hallway, in the hallways. They're mingling in the pool deck. They're mingling in the bars. They're mingling to watch a show. It's a complete mingle. This has to be stopped, and I can't see how cruises can begin. And this is why cruise shares will be under dramatic pressure. I really do. All right, there you go, guys. Thank you for joining me today. If you're watching me live, thank you. If you're watching this show on the rerun, thank you. Please consider subscribing to Stock Markets with Bruce. We are 12 people away from reaching 1,000 subscribers, and I really hope it happens in the next few days. Thank you, all of you who've been giving thumbs ups to these videos, live shows, and my videos. I really appreciate it. And we will be with you again with live updates probably next week. And we'll keep the videos coming as new developments take place in the marketplace. And I hope you enjoy these shows. Thank you again for all of you. David is saying the elevator area is always crowded on a cruise ship. You got that right, especially after a show. You betcha. They're just like cattle. I mean, it's unbelievable. It is quite crazy on a cruise ship after a show is over. No way do you have social distancing. There you have it. Thanks again for joining me today on Stock Markets with Bruce. I really appreciate it, folks. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you can. We'll get over 1,000 subscribers real soon on Stock Markets with Bruce. Have a good weekend in the meantime, everybody. This is Bruce saying take care and bye for now.